Companies mentioned herein are for illustrative purposes only, not intended as solicitation of the purchase of such securities, and do not constitute any investment advice or recommendation.
Hi, I'm Ulrich Fugman, and with me today is Edward Lees. Together, we're the co-CIOs of the Environmental Strategies Group here at BNP Paribas Asset Management. We're very excited to be hosting Plug Power as part of our Uncapped Impact series, a global end-to-end green hydrogen company that today have a pole position in contributing to the green hydrogen economy. The green hydrogen ecosystem is the fastest growing clean energy technology amongst those within the energy transition. Joining us today to talk about this in more detail is hydrogen industry leader Andy Marsh, President and CEO of Plug Power. Welcome, Andy, and thank you very much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Great to be with one of our great investors. Great to be able to talk about Plug, which I love talking about.
Fantastic.
I love to talk about the industry with you today.
Andy, there's a lot of buzz around hydrogen. Tell us, what's the big picture and how do you fit in and what good is that doing for the environment?
There's been really a few items that have occurred over the past decade that have really highlighted this hydrogen economy for the future. One was the Paris Accord. And after Paris, it took folks about 2 to 3 years to recognize that there were many industrial applications like green steel, which represents 6 to 7% of the carbon footprint, as well as things like concrete manufacturing, that the only way you were going to get there was green hydrogen, that electricity wasn't going to work in these processes. COVID was important because at COVID, folks took a step back and said, we're putting all this money out there, but we want this money to really support our governmental goals. And part of the governmental goals, whether you're in China, whether you're in my home country, United States, hydrogen's taking a prominent position because they recognize it's the jobs and the opportunities of the future. Third, and I was just with the Minister of Energy of Ukraine, the Ukraine war and how us in the Western world and the liberal democracies really have energy independence to make sure the future is one where energy is readily available and it's not a national security issue. Those have been 3 big drivers for the industry. And then you take a look at Plug. We've been doing this a long time, 25 years. But we've done something which is unique. First off, we've really built out the whole hydrogen ecosystem. Everywhere from those electrolyzers, which take water and green energy and create hydrogen. We know how to store hydrogen in cryogenic form. We've built more fueling stations than anyone in the world. Over 200 fueling stations. We became the largest user of liquid hydrogen. And we're involved in so many different applications with building large-scale stationary products in South Korea with SK, our JV with Renault called Hyvia here in Europe, to our traditional market in material handling. 60,000 fuel cells, 200 fueling stations, more hydrogen trucks on the road supplying, distributing hydrogen than anyone else in the world in liquid form. Largest user of liquid hydrogen, and now we're building our own plant and becoming deeply vertically integrated. And our first plant in Georgia is coming online. Texas, New York, Louisiana will follow. We have a great activities going on in Finland where we plan between now and 2030 to build out 2 gigawatts worth of electrolyzer products for generating hydrogen for hard to decarbonize applications. We've done a lot. And I guess I should mention, we probably have the best manufacturing facilities in the world. Our gigawatt factory, which we think can be 3 times bigger than we originally thought, in Rochester, New York. anyone who walks through is just by what they've seen. So many of our potential customers who come through, they've said they've been at competitors' facilities. They've never seen anything like it.
I'd love to hear a little bit about your personal journey within this industry. You're also deeply immersed outside of Plug Power in associations and being really a spokesperson for the hydrogen economy and the importance of building this out.
I've been able to be on the cutting edge in wireless in the 80s before people did wireless networks. I was fortunate enough to start a company that powers most of broadband in the United States for outdoor applications. And I got attracted to Plug for multiple reasons. One, it was clear to me if you were going to step into a new domain that's going to change dramatically like telecommunication changed, it was energy. And who had the best raw technology in energy if you go back when I joined the company? And that was 15 years ago, I've been doing it for. It was clear to me it was these engineers at Plug. And my goal was really to try to think through how to build first a business with them and for how to build an industry with this team. And one of the things, and I can tell you 15 years ago, I didn't realize how important it was to build Plug beyond just a company, but really to take that leadership position in defining the hydrogen economy. I am also the chairperson of the Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Association in the United States. We've actually tripled the size of the organization since I've been the chairperson. But it's also given me the relationships with policymakers, not only in the United States, but in Europe and South Korea. Why are they talking to Plug? They all see that Plug actually has the record of doing real things today. And that's one of the reasons I'm at Plug. I like doing real things that can change the world. And it's been really a marvelous experience, and the journey for me continues.
What are the sort of key differences you see between, hydrogen in Europe vis-a-vis the US and the opportunity to scale it in those two different regions?
In the US, it's much more structured. How do you put government policy in place and then let Wall Street really finance the future? In Europe, it's probably a little bit slower, but more structured. It's not, it's clear to me the European strategy, the European Commission defines the rules that allows for implementation. And when you look at the fundamental dollars which are allocated to government policy and energy for this transition, it's actually higher in Europe than the United States in theory. But the United States has the added advantage of how you drive the financial community into it. Quite honestly, I think the right mix is somewhere in between, but it is a different environment to work in. But one thing that's the same, both areas of the world, the EU and the US, as well as places like South Korea and Japan, fully believe that decarbonize and meet their country's goals, hydrogen and green hydrogen specifically needs to be a critical part.
What are some of the main headwinds that you see? How is Plug dealing with those? And what would you tell the naysayers, people that say it's too early, it's not cost effective enough?
First, I would say you're going to miss an opportunity. I spoke about my career in the wireless industry, and I can tell you when it was different. I worked there from the early 80s into the late 90s. And around 1993, 1994, after working at it for 12 years, I realized the time was there. The technology and the costs were coming down. And there was strong government push around the world for wireless communication. Same's going on with hydrogen today. And we've talked a lot about policies and governments, but also companies are critical to all this. Plug's biggest customer is Amazon. I'm well aware of Amazon's hydrogen policies, strategies, and goals. And what we're doing at Plug everywhere from building green hydrogen plants to our HYVIA vehicles, to what we do in distribution centers, to stationary products, all that product mix is part of Amazon's plans to achieve their net zero goals. But you go around the world, Microsoft, SK, here in Europe, we did a deal for building plants in Finland. All that's driven as much by customers as governments. So people want these products, want these technologies. And, climate certainly is a big driver. But behind that, when you think about these companies, they're also being driven by the consumers. I mean, the younger generation want to buy sustainable products. They don't want oil and gas. I understand we need oil and gas today, but they want to buy from companies who have goals to be at net zero. That drives our business as much as anything else. So to the naysayers, I would say, don't you see the consumer drive that wants this? Couple on top of that the governmental policy goals. I think you couple both of them together. It's really a unique combination. And on top of that, when you look at this space, hydrogen fuel cells, my fundamental belief that no one's in a better position than Plug to take advantage of this emerging economy.
Andy, that is great. It's great to hear your focus combined with that potential looking out. And I just want to say that from both me and from Ulrich, from our entire Environmental Strategies Group team, and indeed the broader BNP Paribas Group, thank you so much for coming today.
It was a pleasure to be here today. It's always great to be in London.
Fantastic.
Okay.